These are the required points to express in your ad. Feel free to paraphrase and speak from your own experience. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. So, it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And please make sure, this point, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Do you know the spelling of anchor.fm? ANCHOR.FM. Thank you for your listening. See you. Hello everyone, I'm Richard Von of Back to Live podcast version. This time I'd like to talk about how I acquired foreign languages, and the foreign language I acquired the utmost level is English language, which is a language you are here, which is a language you are listening. And to start with, comparing with the proficiencies of native speaker of English languages, my proficiency of English language is not as high as theirs. So if you find my proficiency or my skill of speaking English language really low or really awful or really bad, please stop listening to this episode. But if you find my proficiency, or if you find my skill of speaking English really good or really fluent or really well, or if you find my skill really so awesome in many ways, please continue listening to my episode or this episode. So when I was kid, I have been to some schools after regular schools, and the type of the schools is for learning English through conversations. Such type of school is popular now in this country, but such type of schools has existed in my country, maybe for many years. Anyway, so that is a start of my studying English language. And afterwards is that when I began to concentrate, I began to invest a huge amount of time into English. Is the time when I became 19 years old, or when I became 20 years old, when I was around that age, I began to invest my time into studying English, because at the time, English in my country, English was thought to be necessary for job hunting and doing works after graduation from universities or graduate schools, which is why I began to study English. So of course, when I was a kid, or when I was a teenager, I have studied English, but I didn't study English really well. I rather concentrated I rather focused on studying scientific stuff, was mathematics subjects for joining better universities. So this is my course of English language. This is my course of studying English language. And after I became a grown up, I began to read so many books written in English language, and I loved reading novels. And so of course I have read some self-development books and other types of books other than novels or novellas. But I continued to read novels written in English language, and my favorite author is Mr. Stephen King. So I have read his books. I have read so many books written by Stephen King. So which is why I could I could acquire this proficiency of English language, and maybe it's up to you whether I'm speaking English really well, or whether I'm speaking English fluently or not. Anyway, so apart from studying English language, I have studied some languages, and maybe the second best foreign language after English is Chinese, and I have studied Russian language and Korean language. And how to study foreign languages, like, you should copy. The bottom line is that, you should copy the pronunciation of the language you'd like to study or you are studying. So in the case of Chinese language, you should. So I will introduce myself in Chinese language. 您好，我是日本人。我是大学生的时候，我开始学习汉语。那时我听不懂拼音是外国人开始学习的时候，从拼音他们开始学习汉语。So what I said is, hello, I'm Japanese, and when I was a university student, I began to study Chinese language, and at that time I couldn't understand the pinyin. Pinyin is what foreigners learn at the beginning of studying Chinese, which is what I was trying to say. Anyway, language, you can speak out language. You can copy the pronunciations, and you need to copy the pronunciations to speak out a foreign language you'd like to learn or you'd like to acquire. So, once somebody said that my Chinese is the Chinese language of mainland China, not the Chinese language of other parts of China, like, maybe most people don't think Taiwan is a part of China, and and Singapore, and in Singapore many Chinese descendants live. In Singapore, in Singapore many Chinese descendants live in that metropolitan country. Anyway, what I'd like to tell you is that, language, people can language, if you start studying foreign language, what you should do is to copy the pronunciations of that language you'd like to study, or you are studying if you are studying some foreign languages. And language, you can understand you can acquire the pronunciations, and at that time or just after which you can acquire grammars, or you study grammars in the ordinary course of studying foreign languages. This is the case to studying, other language like Russian in my case. And some people, maybe some people would like to study, for example, French language and German language or Spanish language, in the case of people in the United States. And first stage is to learn the pronunciation, and the copying pronunciation is fine to acquire the foreign languages you are studying. And afterwards, studying grammars come next. But grammars aren't that important, because many people use their own grammars. And in the case of English language, the grammars used in novels is different from the grammar. So in the case of English languages, the grammars used in novels are different from what I learned when I was a student. So anyway, copying pronunciations comes before other other subjects related to foreign language acquisitions, and like which, as I spoke out, in the case of studying Chinese language, you should acquire the pronunciations. I mean, in my case, I try to acquire pinyin pronunciation, and I really focused on, and I spent I spent some long time for acquiring that pinyin or Mandarin Chinese pronunciation, which is why I could acquire sort of Chinese language. So also, my proficiency of Chinese language is not so high, or really low, lower than native speakers of Chinese, but people say that my pronunciation is really good, and some Chinese people say yes, my pronunciation is sort of good, or but while some people say your speaking manner is different from native ones, in which case, so I would like to ask those Chinese people who said that please speak English, because if those Chinese people spoke English language for me, I don't have to speak Chinese. I have encountered such kind of situation, but anyway. So what I'd like to tell you is that copying pronunciation does matter. That's it. Thank you very much for your listening. And so just before ending this episode, 我再说汉语。我是大学生的时候，我学过2年汉语。那时我不可以说汉语说的那么好，但是我是20岁的时候，大概我是21岁的大概是我是21岁的时候，我考了一个试验，在那个试验，我取得一个水平，我 like which I'm sorry for my proficiency of Chinese language has dropped. So if you are studying foreign language, and if you stopped studying foreign language, it's fine to start studying again, and you can retrieve the level you have reached. So it's fine. If I hate my drop of Chinese proficiency, it's fine to study Chinese language again, like which you can keep the proficiency of your foreign language. This is afterwards, before I mean, this comes afterwards, before beginning to study foreign languages. That's it. Thank you very much for your listening. See you.